Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next in our video lectures on the area of gamification. Today, we're going to be talking about actions, points, and correlates. In gamification, it is often summarized as being PBL, with that meaning points, badges, and leaderboards. So, everybody recognizes that points are incredibly important in gamified systems. However, what a lot of people don't seem to recognize is that there are different types of points. It's not just a single system. We don't just award a single system of points for absolutely everything that a player does. Because if we did that, we wouldn't be able to figure out how these systems interact and produce the dynamics that we're looking for inside of a gamified system. So there are 5 different types of points available to play around with, and you can use multiple systems of each. The first one is experience points. We have redeemable points, we have skill points, karma points, and reputation points. So experience points are probably the most important of all the systems out there and the easiest to get a hold of. Basically, any action that your player performs inside of the system should earn them experience points. It should move them further along the road. It should basically help them to level up. This is, of course, borrowed from the Dungeons and Dragons school and everything like that. The second type of point system is the redeemable point system. And the best way to think of this one is almost like a currency. So it's gold. It's points that you earn, but then you use them to purchase another thing. These type of points are often given the acronym, or the often talked about in terms of earn and burn. So you're attempting to earn the points for performing the action, and then you're burning those points to take them out of the system. Next, we have skill points. Skill points are like experience points, but they're for a specific action. They're not for every action that a person does. In video game terms, they would be leveling up of a specific skill in a RPG style of game, so that one skill is getting better. Karma points. Possibly the best explanation of karma points out there is the idea of Imager. Namely, these are points that you have, but the only value that they have is in you giving them away. So if they're being used as a social reward, a method of making sure that you thank somebody else for an action that they've taken on your behalf and show how much this thing means to you. Another classic example would be likes on Facebook pages, would be examples of karma points. Finally, we have reputation points. And reputation points are used to ensure that the person that you are dealing with has a good reputation and goes in both directions. It's bi-directional. Classic examples of this would be the Uber rating system, where the Uber driver gets rated and also rates the passenger to make sure that you can decide whether or not to pick up a bad passenger, or if you want to take the ride from a poorly rated Uber driver. So all of these different experience points can and do serve different functions within the system. And understanding that they have different functionalities helps you to design a better system. But all of these points have to be tied to actions. They have to be tied to something that your player does. What that button press actually means. Because if we think about it, in terms of a online platform, a HTML system, all that the interaction is literally the player pressing specific buttons. So what does that button mean? What does doing this specific action mean? Um, and it can be almost anything, but you want those actions to be active verbs. So, for example, argue or comment, like, join, etc. I have some listed here. You want to stay away from complex verbs like learn, because what does learn actually mean? So, the button press means this. The button press should then award a certain amount of points in one of the five types of points available. If you think about it and you're thinking about designing a gamified system, if you pick 5 key actions and then figure out where your point systems are, you're very quickly on the way to designing a system that can be deployed. Now, unfortunately, actions don't stay the same throughout the entire progression of the player. They change in value based on where the player is along the road to mastery. And this is a concept that uh, you can think of in terms of a 5-step process. Novice players have different goals and different challenges than problem solvers, experts, masters, and visionaries. The novice doesn't know anything about the system, so the struggle for them is to get to understand what they should do first. Problem solvers have figured out the system enough that they can understand where their next step is. Experts fly through the system and are needing new challenges and new things to pique their interest. Masters just fly through the system. Visionaries visionaries are the very rare people who not only understand the system, but have got such a deep understanding that they could, in fact, design it. These people tend to be the sort of individuals that you want to recruit into your organization in the future to help you. So, joining is incredibly important to a novice player, and the points at that level should be much higher for this action. It's less important for a master, so because they already know how to do it. So again, the point scale should reflect this. So we take our actions, we figure out what key actions they are, we figure out what value they are, okay? We assign a point system to each of them, or several point systems to each of them, and then we think about, okay, a beginning level player, a next level player, an expert level player, a mastery level player. How does this change? And we can now start to get an image of the entire system coming together. The simple thing is that the major reason that most apps fail is they don't get the player into the loop fast enough. You have maybe 10 seconds to decide whether your player normally takes about 10 seconds to decide whether or not they're ever going to open this app again. So you need to get them into what is called a core loop, a simple core loop. And the simplest version of it is that a player does an action, the player is then given a reward, and then this reward motivates the player to take the action again. which of course creates a new reward, which motivates the player, which encourages them to do the action again. So we want to encourage the people into that system as fast as possible because the reward structure will then become very interesting, it will become very motivating. And we've already talked about how to use these sort of extrinsic rewards in previous videos. So to recap, we have five types of uh, points: experience points, redeemable points, skill points, karma points, and reputation points. We have to tie those two actions. We have to tie those to different actions that the player actually does and decide how to work them up while bearing in mind issues like economy and inflation. We also then have to think about the level of progression of the player. And once we have all that figured out, we can decide what is our first loop. What is the first thing that we get our players to do? What is the first reward that we give them to encourage them to engage with our system? As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or go onto the forums on Moodle. Where we're going to next is not what we do with rewards and how to do with it. We are going to be talking about our badges: the good, the bad, and the artistically inept. Okay, so thank you very much for watching the video, and everybody stay safe.